world know who I am. They know I'm confident, they know I talk. But there's some fella in London, England named Brian Clough, some soccer player or something. Anyway, I heard that this fella talks too much. They say he's another Muhammad Ali. There's just one Muhammad Ali. Now, Clough, I've had enough. Stop it.
It's funny with Mavericks because you either love them and want to watch them, or you hate them and you want to watch them more.
I have nothing to say to Nigel. I find the man intolerable in that he's so wild.
All of us are probably a little bit crazy deep down.
To me, he's just a goalkeeper, and he'll be just saving all my shots with his face.
You can't just talk it, you got to be able to do it.
This fella does look totally unstoppable.
I like to hurt, maim or whatever. I like to hurt.
Every sport from time to time throws up someone that's completely different.
Give me the money.
Someone who gets the public's attention, transcending the sport.
Half of me mates are Protestants, half of them are Catholics. It makes no difference to me.
You can change things. You can say, well, look, I'm not willing to do that.
I was off for 3.5 years, but now I'm back.
It is a maverick sport.
Call me a clown! Fool!
He might not be a role model, but he doesn't care.
When people say I can't, I always do.
Number one on your list of Mavericks, who would it be?
Name one heavyweight champion of the world.
It has to be Muhammad Ali.
May I introduce the heavyweight champion of the world, indeed of planet Earth, Muhammad Ali.
Alias in his early days, Cassius Clay, the Louisville Lip, an Olympic champion.
Where do you start? The greatest, the original, the ultimate maverick.
This is the legend of Muhammad Ali, the prettiest fighter there ever will be. This brash young boxer is something to see, and the heavyweight championship is his destiny.
Cassius Clay was front-page news. The writers had found a boxer who could string 3 syllables together. They even took his poetry and gave it a bigger circulation in a year than Byron got in a century.
Ali was the first guy that brought poetry and artistry to the heavyweight division.
Here you had a boxer that threw away the shackles of what people perceive to be heavyweight boxers.
I'm the greatest fighter of all times. I'm too pretty, sucker. You don't stand a chance tonight. If you think you can get me, come on. Just keep talking all that stuff. Keep talking. I'm gonna soon get you in a few minutes. Come on, sucker. I don't care if you take 20 years, you'll never get me.
He told everyone that would listen that he was the best ever. If you're saying all these things and not backing it up, it's a completely different story, but he always backed it up.
He was incredibly articulate, incredibly charismatic. He was a beautiful looking man. He had skill, he had balance. He could hit you 5 times before you knew it.
I probably couldn't take the beating that I put on individuals. I wouldn't take it myself. I would retire if I had to get hit in my pretty face all that long, you understand?
He had a gift. Ali brought something new to the stage. He brought entertainment.
So I found out that promoters like money. Promoters look for the best 2 people that's going to draw the crowd. I met a famous wrestler in America who's deceased now named Gorgeous George. And he was bragging about how pretty he was, how beautiful he was, how great he was. I'll annihilate the bomb, I'll kill him, I cannot be defeated. And he was bragging so until I had to go see him. And many thousands of people was there, mainly hoping he would be whooped, just to see if this man could really back up all his talk. Right away I start talking, I am the greatest. If he talks jive, he'll fall in fight. I'm the real king of the world, I'm too beautiful to be a fighter. This made many people angry because black people in America as a rule are humble. They don't talk like that. And I heard it ringside when I fought Sonny Liston. He talks too damn much. Put your fist in his mouth. Well, I didn't care what he said because he paid $250 for the seat. And I went to the bank laughing, you understand?
He spread the global appeal of boxing, and he spread the audience beyond the anoraks or the traditionalists. He brought in the casual fan.
Way back in a little one-horse town called Louisville, Kentucky, back in 1941, Mr. Cassius Clay married Mrs. Odessa Grady, who later became Mrs. Cassius Clay, and they had a little son. It all started 25 years past when one of the best fighters was born at last. And I want the people there in England to meet my mother and father, Mr. and Mrs. Cassius Clay. Come on over, Mom and Daddy, and meet my English fans here. This is Mrs. Clay, and this is my daddy, Mr. Cassius Clay Sr.
He caught the public's imagination and brought boxing to the masses, really.
And then you add that to what he did outside of the ring, which is monumental.
Would you fight in a country to which you were politically opposed? Say one which had a very unattractive attitude towards the black man.
Oh, like America?
He was very unpopular when he made the decision not to go to Vietnam, not to be enlisted. He wouldn't do it.
That immediately stigmatized him as an anti-war protester. It immediately marginalized him.
You are happy to have thrown away perhaps the greatest sports career since the war. See, the greatest sports title mean nothing, mister, if you cannot be free. See, boys in Vietnam are throwing away, you may say, their lives. I haven't did that much. I'm still living. They are dying today to free somebody they don't know. So what in the hell is a heavyweight title and a few stinky dollar bills for my people's freedom?
But his license was taken off him, his titles were stripped off him, he wasn't allowed to box.
As they say, the price of freedom comes high. I have paid, but I am free.
There are certain people in life that are prepared to pay the ultimate price for something they believe in.
And after I go to jail, if I go to jail, I'm going to stay in training.
Then he took it to the Supreme Court. It just so happened that things turned in Vietnam and it all worked out in his favour.
By the end of the 3 years, he was a hero for standing up for perhaps for the right reason. And that added another dimension to his appeal as a maverick sportsman.
I was off for 3.5 years, but now I'm back. I'm convinced, I'm cool, I'm ready. My wind is good, my weight's good, and I'm better than ever. I'm ready for Joe Frazier. I'm fighting every month. I'm proving he's coward. I want them all to get ready. Want them all to get ready.
There was a darker side sometimes to his comments.
Yeah. He was hugely rude and upsetting to Frazier, and you know, he called him an Uncle Tom, and that was an awful thing to say.
He tormented, almost tortured opponents in the ring because of things they'd said to him, not calling him by his proper name, etc.
There are people to this day who never quite forgave him for that.
I don't want to shake hands with him or George Foreman. They've been talking, they're my contenders, they're my enemies, and I just want them. I don't want to shake hands with nothing.
A lot of people didn't like it. People wanted to see him get knocked out, but they were still tuning in to either see him win or to see him get beat.
Ali's trilogy with Joe Frazier was global sporting theatre. But his one greatest achievement in the ring came at the age of 32, in the Rumble in the Jungle, against a young, fearsome champion, George Foreman.
Just before the fight, I'm looking at him and the man's giving us instructions. I said, sucker, you are in trouble tonight.
No one really thought he was going to win that fight. Foreman was a heavy favourite.
You were fighting your idol. When you were a little kid, you were hearing about me.
Foreman was a formidable puncher, the biggest puncher in the division.
First round, I laid in the corners, right? I said, come on, show me something. I talked through the whole fight.
He had an incredible ability to absorb punishment.
They told me you could hit hard. You're just a sissy.
Ali just lay on the ropes all night and took everything that he threw at him.
He just, and every once in a while I just go.
Who would have thought that could have won a fight against the most ferocious puncher in boxing?
See, he's going. I'd have hit him before he got there.
And Ali just to lie there and soak up all the punishment, and when the time was right, take him out.
Round 7, and you're tired. You have 8 more rounds to go. Come on, keep punching. I want you to get tired. Okay, take your best shot. Take your best shot. He's breathing. I said, oh, you finished, boy. You are in trouble. I said, you don't have but 2 chances, slim and none.
There's never been a greater sportsman, and never will be in my eyes, than Muhammad Ali.
Was he a maverick? He was the greatest maverick of all.
What he did for the world of sport was revolutionary.
Once divisive, Ali became a unifying figure outside the ring. And one aspiring young fighter was entranced. Growing up during the Troubles in Northern Ireland, Barry McGuigan was determined to take his own principled stand.
He was somebody, you know, who showed me that you can change things, and you can say, well, look, I'm not willing to do that. I'm not willing to accept these set of circumstances.
It was a time of war, but McGuigan took no side and demanded his fans left their hatred at the door. He fought with the dove of peace on his shorts.
He was a different sort of maverick to someone like Ali, for example, who was very very loud, very brash and outspoken. Barry'd fought in the ring with great will and determination, always fought with his heart on his sleeve.
Everyone wanted to shake the hand of the boxer who's brought pride and joy to a province which needs both more than most.
What he was doing in Northern Ireland at the time, in the 80s, was incredible. It wasn't a great place to be. And the old saying that was often used when Barry fought, leave the fighting to McGuigan.
Half of me mates are Protestant, half of them are Catholics. I mean, it makes no difference to me.
When he trained in the roughest areas of Belfast, literally, he would be driving there and people would go, stop the firing, lads, Barry's coming to train.
The trouble in the streets would stop for a couple of hours when McGuigan fought and the communities came together, and he was a beacon of light and hope for everyone.
The deep Republicans would have called me a turncoat. You know, heavy loyalists would have said, you know, we don't want that little southern guy there, we don't like him, whatever. But those small, very small minority, I didn't care about them.
Well, sadly, Barney, I have to ask you about this threat which appeared in a Sunday newspaper. How do you, and indeed Barry, treat the rumours of a death threat?
I put myself at risk, not only me, but I risked my family too.
I don't understand why anyone would want to hurt Barry McGuigan. He brings so much joy and happiness to us all.
McGuigan brought more than just hope to the Irish people. In 1985, he was crowned world champion, and they will never forget.
Hi, boys. How's it going, fella?
Anytime I'm in Belfast with Barry, you know, you just walk down the street and people, not just people of his generation, but people of all ages approaching him in the street and looking photographs. He really is a legend, not just in Belfast and Ireland, but all over the UK. And Barry's a man of the people, and he always has been. Mike Tyson, he's the one.
A force of nature.
The ultimate fighting machine.
Mike Tyson changed boxing.
My motto is either you kill or be killed.
He was the first boxer since Muhammad Ali that got people who weren't into boxing to watch it.
I'm very confident. I know this is my world because I've been in here 34 times and I was successful. And so I'm extremely confident against the best men in the world in my division.
Yeah.
And I slaughtered them.
A proper maverick. You'd happily part with your money to go and see him.
Mike was the most explosive, the best young fighter I think ever existed in boxing.
This fella does look totally unstoppable.
He was something that you hadn't really seen before. Very, very short, heavyweight, but extremely explosive and powerful.
These punches are tremendous punches, bang on target. Oh!
Well, that's it.
He fought out of a low centre of gravity, and you miss him at your peril.
When I hit the punch, boom, boom, and then I twist it, and boom, and I'm at the side where you can't hit me.
And he used to have this, you know, bobbing and weaving, ducking and diving style, and you throw punches at him, and he'd make you miss, and then he'd come back and hit you 6 times.
Bing, bing.
Yeah. Yeah, I'll get the point.
Tyson could terrify you.
People used to lose to him before they got in the ring.
There comes a man himself there, without music, as I thought he would, without dressing gown, sweating profusely there. The Iron Man himself, the undisputed champion, Mike Tyson. What a formidable figure he is.
Mike Tyson showed up in a pair of little black shorts and a pair of small black boots. No fireworks, no fanfare, just showed up, beat the bloke up savagely and went home.
Those 4 or 5 years, mid-80s, up until the defeat by Buster Douglas, he was a man apart in boxing. He was untouchable.
And you won 34 fights, 30 in straight knockouts, and you've beaten people like Tubbs, Pigland Thomas, Bone Crusher Smith. Who was the hardest that you fought so far?
It's so funny that you say that because after fights, you know, I used to take them so casually. You know what I mean? After it's over, I don't think about it. The fight is, I can't even recollect the fight because it's no longer in my mind.
You don't actually remember how you actually knocked people out?
It's no longer tangible. It's not, I can feel the punch and crack on the head. I always have in my mind where I'm going to strike the blow. But after the fight is over, it's just, you know what I mean? So second motion.
Mike was making a statement to the world that he was the baddest man on the planet, and he was. He was a nasty, horrible piece of work when he was younger.
I like to get in, I like to hurt when I'm in there, maim or whatever. I like to hurt.
And that aura of violence, whether we like it or not, is appealing because we live in a safe world, and this was a little tiptoe into the dark nights, if you like.
Tyson was a sporting phenomenon, making a sudden impact. Instant wealth, fame and attention were his, but dealing with the adulation and the privilege was the issue. Cracks soon appeared.
Most of these mavericks are complicated characters because they're flawed nature. Mike was perhaps the most complicated of them all.
What you get with guys who are geniuses, you always get the flip side.
He's one of these people who is happiest in the ring. Get him outside and then the problem started.
I'm no monster. I was just a boy. I was just a little kid. I had no one to protect me.
Mike, from the viewpoint that I know him from, is a kind man who has lived in an unkind world.
You had this tough kid coming off bad background.
His dad was a pimp. His mother was a prostitute. The only peace he got was going up having fun with his pigeons.
A lisp, something that our school would probably make fun of.
He got bullied at school until he let his anger out one day and beat up the bully. And then he realised, maybe I can do something with this. He had many, many problems psychologically that he had to overcome, and he masked them with his major success as a fighter.
Within 2 hours of the champion's arrival, Tyson mania was in full cry. Millions of Japanese seemed totally mesmerized by the American champion. It was as if the movie hero of the 1950s, Godzilla, had returned to Tokyo. Even at 4 o'clock in the morning, photographers waited for the chase for one more picture opportunity.
I didn't never want to be a superstar. I just wanted to be the champion of the world.
He was always in the press. He was always in the limelight. He didn't know how to deal with the fame and the attention he was getting from the public and the media.
See, I can't hide any of my faults or weaknesses because I'm always scrutinized by a camera.
He wore his heart on his sleeve, and you know what the media does to somebody who wears their heart on their sleeve. But he gave them the ammunition.
It went to his head, and he would probably admit to himself that he just got too big for his own boots.
Iron Mike unravelled over a turbulent decade. The most dominant heavyweight champion of all time fell from the greatest height. Convicted of rape, he served numerous bans from boxing, and at 37 was declared bankrupt. The young star was now a cautionary tale, a notorious bad guy, in the grip of demons that looked like they might destroy him.
I use Mike Tyson as an example on how not to fail. Every time I feel like I want to be wild, I just think about Mike Tyson and his image and the way he's carried on and conducted himself. I have to step back a bit and realise I ain't going to go down that road.
I admire his ability as a fighter. As a man, the things that he has done, the behavioural misconduct, I do not admire that.
He bit Evander Holyfield's ear off. It's absolutely crazy.
What type of man bites the top of someone's ear off? And took his gum shield out before he did it. Evander Holyfield I saw a few months ago, he quite enjoyed it. Looking back on it, it made him famous. I had my ear bitten off, but this is a weird world we live in.
Is Tyson a tragic figure?
In many ways, no. He's actually analysed himself and realised where he went wrong.
But I would give it all up if everybody that I fought never forgot it. Because that's what it's all about among my peers. I want their respect. Because they know how hard it is to get to the top.
I look at him in awe of the fighter that he was. I don't feel sorry for him.
I said to Tyson, I had a fighter once, like you, Mike, that wasn't very good with his money. I said his name was Chris Eubank. And Mike said to me, Chris Eubank? He said, he wasn't in my class at all. I used to spend $5 million in a weekend. I had no idea where it had gone. But his brand remains strong. So he's never going to be poor. And hopefully he's getting more satisfaction in his life, coming to terms with the demons that made him the personality that he was.
He would appear to have found a little bit of contentment now, but he had years and years where he raged against the storm.
He looks calm and relaxed and at ease with himself and at peace. But I wouldn't like to rub him up the wrong way.
If I was another fight fan, I was watching like that, I would say he's a mean I ever saw in my life. In the ring, of course.
In the ring, of course.
Fighters that fight with passion and emotion, they're not talking about money, they're talking about the belt. You don't have to sacrifice one for the other. It's a thing that you do when you are fighting for escaping out of the ghetto.
What a good phrase, maverick, for Don King. I mean, that hides so many things behind it.
Victory, victory, hear my cry, V-I-C-T-O-R-Y.
Don King's story rivals any fighter's. The showman with the candy floss hair rose up from numbers racketeer to sports #1 promoter.
He worked with the greatest and some of the greatest fighters that there's ever been, and he put on some of the greatest shows that there's ever been.
My death has been greatly exaggerated.
Still promoting Don King in his mid-80s, still producing the odd world champion.
How long can he last? You know what I mean? I'm still snatching them right before they get him signed.
Don was the greatest promoter I've ever come across, and he wanted 101 cents out of every dollar.
Give me the money. Show me the money. Victory is ours. We will fight him on the beaches. We'll fight him in the air. We'll fight him in the trenches. We'll fight him on the battlefields, but we shall never, ever surrender.
We're almost the circus masters. You know, we're in charge of the circus, and we've got all these acts. We judge our success in terms of profit and loss accounts.
History was made with the rumble in the jungle to be followed by the thriller in Manila. You know what I mean? It's just going on down the line. Is why I'm standing here today. That's why I wanted to refresh your memory to give you the history.
It's a checkered history. Convicted of kicking a man to death 50 years ago, King was released in 1970 and later pardoned, by which time he'd found his true calling. The rumble in the jungle was the launchpad for a remarkable career.
He sold himself better than anyone could sell anything else.
Yes, this is what I am.
What's the church on the wall for you?
Incredible personality, he used to quote Shakespeare, and a phenomenally interesting guy to be around.
He became a personality that almost as big as the sport.
Often the fighters were suppressed because he was more interesting than them.
He's a jewel in the rough, a diamond, I should say, and all he needs is a diamond polish. And that's what my practice is, polishing diamonds.
Tyson, Witherspoon, Holmes, Ali, among others, all sued King and reached out of court settlements with him.
A lot of those fighters who sued him squandered a lot of money or had money squandered for them. But over the years, he's been an exceptionally sharp-minded businessman, let's put it that way.
Okay, listen, man, give him one. Look at him, stare him down, man. Put the eyeballs on his head. Face to face. Yeah.
When you strip it all back, Don King makes a lot of money, but any of the fighters that are with him, they make a lot of money also.
What a hell of a show! What a hell of a show!
The nicest man on earth? No. The baddest man on earth? No. Good for boxing? Yes.
Ain't nobody can do it like this. Say what you will of me, they get it. They can't do it.
I think his legacy is more the phrase, only in America. And the way as he walks into an arena and everyone will boo him, and he smiles and takes out a little tiny cocktail stick with an American flag on and waves it at the crowd.
Just got a mucho.
You got an extra American on?
Yes, I got an extra American. Another Mexican American. No, don't give him all of them. I got to be American too. Yeah.
If there's one maverick that stands out other than Muhammad Ali, it's him.
Hold it. Let me have this beautiful woman. Oh, I just love you. Just look for us now. We'll look for your support.
I speak only Espanol.
Ah, okay. Hablo español?
Yeah.
Ante por favor that you look for this.
Bye.
Thing about him, he's all hype, you know, and I can't wait to November the 18th to give him a good hiding.
You need those personalities that come along that push the barriers of appeal.
I come up the hard way. I
proved myself, boy.
You had your time. Let's have some parliamentary procedure here, all right?
We were fortunate in the late 80s and the 90s to have some characters out there.
I'll face the man in the ring. I can face him. I'm speaking to you. You're asking me questions.
Anytime.
There's a great era for boxing in this country. It's an era where boxing stopped the country on a Saturday night.
I have nothing to say to Nigel. I find the man intolerable in that he's so wild. I have no time for such people. He has no class as far as I see it.
And the top of all the personality stakes was Christopher Livingston Eubank. A total one-off, eccentric, completely nuts on occasions.
I'm the man, and I bring a lot of, what's the word? Excitement to this game.
On the other side of the coin, you had Nigel Benn, you know, like the blue touch paper and retire.
I'm going to hit him so many times with a left, he's going to be crying for a right.
He could come in your office one day and want to kill you, and then come in the other day and he cries eyes out like a baby because he wants to be loved.
I like the critics and the notters. I like them around because, you know, they inspire me. They give me more incentive to go out there and really hurt the person bad.
Ben versus Eubank was the maverick rivalry that defined the golden era for British boxing. Two opposites attracted record-breaking ratings. The warrior and the eccentric gent. A combustible blend capturing the imagination.
Did you like fame?
No.
Why?
Because I loved it.
He used to dress like an old-fashioned English gent and then drive around in a massive American truck. Where did those two cross over?
Whatever your affectations in terms of philosophy or dress sense, if you can fight, it'll be taken on board. If you can fight. If you can't fight, get out. Ah, Mr. Armani.
There's some guys like Eubank who see this whole thing as a bit of a pantomime to sell tickets.
Were you a boxer or a showman?
I was both.
You either love them or hate them, but you're going to tune in to see him win or tune in to see him hopefully get knocked out.
Trainers can't even talk to me about boxing. What they have to teach me, I don't listen to.
Aren't you going to put people's backs up with that sort of attitude?
Yes.
I didn't like him, which meant I loved him because I wanted to watch him.
I mean, Eubank shows sold out. I think the crowd was 50%, perhaps bigger, wanted him to get beat, but they still bought a ticket.
People who disrespect me give me more strength to beat them.
Giving it the old Napoleonic strut there, doesn't he? Looking out of the crowd. What a character. And you cannot knock an unbeaten record.
He quite liked being the man they love to hate. He sucked up on that. He got strength from that.
I think to be a great sportsman, you need another great sportsman to play off.
Ben was a maniac, really. The Dark Destroyer.
I've got something for you.
Always exciting fights, and they used to say that he was more dangerous when he was hurt.
One of those fighters who seemed to love it. When the bell went, that's where he wanted to be.
Oh, what a punch.
He's the sort of fighter that the punters identify with. He came from a military background. That's where his love of fighting started. And he was fearsome.
When the general punter comes up to you in the street, what does he want to talk about?
Generally, the Ben won.
I've never known opinions so sharply divided about a world title fight.
I do detest him, I really do. It's no joke, I can't stand him.
He can't win, and I can't lose.
The first fight was fantastic.
One of the greatest fights I've ever seen. I was convinced that Eubank was going to win because I think styles make fights and it was the right time for Eubank.
Oh, a good shot that was. Oh, that's when he's dangerous, isn't he? Like a wounded animal. Oh, he rocked there as well.
Let's look at the finish of the belt. Yes,
it's all over in the ninth round.
I do detest Chris Eubanks, you know, more than anybody else, but, you know, I can't knock him for the way he works.
My chin is cast iron. I told you they couldn't touch it. If anyone can touch somebody's chin, it's Nigel Benn. This is 2 or 3 seconds after I stopped Nigel Benn in 1990. And in that scream was 7 years of solitude. no friendship, training, extreme training, pain, learning, focus, application, persistence. And I honoured it at that moment.
You'd see Chris Eubank, you'd boo. You'd see Nigel Benn, he'd be the hero. The hero would lose to the villain. And then they would have to do it all over again.
And you got one say simply the best. So simply the best means fighting the best. And that's what
Eubank Ben 2 was a commercial 50-50 joint venture with Don King, which was a lot of fun.
A huge crowd at Old Trafford watched a tactical rematch that Ben believed he'd won, only for the judges to call it a draw. But a third super fight between the rivals appeared a formality.
Ben went with Don King, Eubank stayed with me, and because of boxing, politics, etc., Eubank Ben 3 never happened.
Oh, look. We were just talking about you, man. Give me a hug, man.
Coming from the same country, but being world beaters in their own right.
You had your image, I had mine, and we worked the crowd.
Perfectly.
That's something that's kind of missing from boxing these days.
Yeah, without you, I couldn't have been who I was.
And without you, I couldn't be who I was.
Thank you very much.
But yeah, you know that, man, you know that. Yeah, your hand is still strong in you, mate. His hand is still strong. You won't lose that, will you?
It's funny with Mavericks because you either love them and you want to watch them, or you either hate them and you want to watch them more. Nigel Benn falls into the I love him, I want to be him. Chris Eubank falls into the what an idiot, I hope he gets beat, I'm going to watch him tonight. And Prince Nassim is sort of in the middle.
The British fighters are no longer at the top looking very good. They're getting old and they're getting out of the game. Nigel Benn, Chris Eubank. It's me coming up what's the age of 20 and I'm planning to be the big star in Britain.
He's a one-off. He come along once in a lifetime or once every 200 or 300 years. God be me judge. This is the best I've ever seen.
I don't think I've ever seen a fighter with just so much confidence in what he's doing.
Flash, arrogant, and you either loved him or hated him.
Don't try this at home. It's totally professional.
One of my favourite all-time fighters.
I absolutely despise them.
Well, I know a few of you out there have been none too pleased by some of Nassim Hamed's antics.
Entertainer, very vocal, very controversial.
When you look at me, you're looking at a man ready to cane the world. He had as much lip as anybody could imagine. To me, he's just a goalkeeper, and he'd be just saving all my shots with his face.
Oh, his jaw was loose under that.
There was a little bit of me that wanted him to lose.
Definitely a unique talent, this little fella.
Looking back now, I could see why he was doing it, and he made a hell of a name for himself.
When he first went into that gym in Sheffield, they didn't know what the heck they had. Very soon, they realised that he had something.
I'm watching and I think to myself, bloody hell, he can fight and he can move.
I'm alright, just moving and slipping. I'm not a really hard hitter, but I can hit when it comes to people who want to hit.
Yemeni background, living in Sheffield, tough background for him.
You would have had to stand up for yourself and be brash and outspoken to just keep people backing off.
Me, as a kid, not really liking him, was always hoping that one day would clip his heels, going over the top rope and fall flat in his face, but it never seemed to happen.
No matter what people like it, if they like it, if they don't, as long as they're switching on to watch, I'm cool with that.
Well, that's a lovely shot.
For a featherweight, a serious puncher.
Oh, what a left hook.
His style was unique, hands down round by his waist.
He used to embarrass people and make a fool out of them and frustrate them. He was a small man, but he talked like a big man.
And you can only talk like that if you can fight. And by God, could he fight.
He was sort of from that new wave of sportsmen that understood how important it was, not just to put on a good fight, but to put on a good show as well.
Nassim Hamed always knew what he wanted. A world champion in 1995 at the age of just 21, he became the king of pay-per-view. Show-stopping, taking control of his career.
And he showed the TV stations, you don't have to be just a heavyweight. but you have to be a heavyweight personality. And that was the maverick in Naz.
I'm causing it to be a big attraction. I'm getting rich, very rich.
No, I'm late.
You know, I have to be grateful because he brought a lot of money to the lighter weight divisions, a lot of excitement.
One of the defining characteristics of most Mavericks is they do not fulfill their potential. Does that go for Naz?
Yes, definitely. Being a maverick, he's flawed as a personality. And the personality of Naz was that he believed he was indestructible, invincible, and he wasn't.
My ambitions is to be a legend, and obviously I'm going to have to win 5, 6 world titles. I'm never going to get beat in my life, you know. I can't see myself getting beat.
Then, in 2001, Naz fell to earth.
He fought Marco Antonio Barrera, and he just got complacent, which is the biggest killer in sport. The overconfidence that made him such a destructible force suddenly came back to haunt him.
When Barrera beat him, that obviously affected him. He couldn't really bounce back from that.
He was 2 or 3 fights away from superstardom in terms of the history, the legacy that he left behind.
He burned brightly and then he just faded away very quickly. But what a fighter. One of the best featherweights around this country's ever had, no doubt about it.
See, if Mick keeps talking too much, just give him a slap.
Have I got permission?
Or Tyson can.
Yeah, go on, mate. On a scale of 1 to 10, how maverick are you?
11.
He's the self-proclaimed Gypsy King, who's amused, shocked and appalled on his way to being world champion.
This is a Tyson Fury show. Forget about him. He's a nobody.
He's definitely going to have another job, at least in the circus.
I'm a natural talker, natural entertainer. Some people are born with it.
Tyson, how confident are you of bringing the belts back to Britain?
As confident as waking up in the morning and putting my shoes on.
I'm a fighting man. That's what I do. That's what I'm born and bred and destined to do. What you see is what you get.
Whatever you think of him, people are now talking about boxing again.
I have no idea what you're talking about, sir. You at the back with the long hair.
There's never been a heavyweight champion like me. There's never been a boxer like me, ever.
I'm interested in all the titles, all them belts you've got on there. I'm interested in breaking your face in.
I would have to think of things to say to get a headline from Tyson Fury. It would come out naturally.
You have about as much charisma as my underpants.
I like Big Fury. I think he's a character.
He's not everyone's cup of tea. He might not necessarily be a role model for the majority of kids, but he doesn't care.
It was unfortunate what was said, and I'm sure Tyson regrets that now, but we are where we are.
I play the pantomime villain, and that's my role. I wouldn't change it for the world.
Throw me a clown! Fool!
He will say things that he shouldn't say as someone in the public eye.
You don't like it, change the station. You don't like it, don't take photos. You don't like it, don't print it in your newspaper. Do I care? Not really.
You love me or hate me, people are still going to watch me.
Come on, get in here. How are you, mate? You okay?
How are you?
Yeah, I'm good, I'm good.
I was over in Germany for your fight.
Good man.
Best night of my life.
It was mine and all.
What I set out to be when I was a kid was the heavyweight champion of the world. And not just to be the heavyweight champion, to beat the guy who nobody could beat. And for years and years and years, I was saying, I can beat Vladimir Klitschko. I can beat Vladimir Klitschko. Nobody believed me.
Tyson Fury's incredible journey began on professional undercards back in 2008. The fresh-faced giant from the family of fighting travellers had a name to live up to and an intense focus. Even at 19, there was only one end game.
The only one who's going to stop me from being successful as a boxer is me. If I can keep focused and keep disciplined, then there's nothing going to stop me at all. Watch out the world, I'm coming.
Tyson, can you look over here, please?
7 years later, that world title dream was within reach, if you were willing to believe in a rank outsider. For more than a decade, Vladimir Klitschko had ruled the heavyweight division, but he'd never faced a mind-bending maverick quite like this.
Gypsy King versus some clown from Ukraine or Kazakhstan. Who's going to win that one? All to be revealed.
Is there any nerves?
Do I look nervous? Not at all.
How did he look to you?
He looked very nervous and very weak-minded.
Up there, he's fiercely strong and fiercely committed and knows what he's about. You'd have to get up very, very early to spook Tyson Fury.
I know by looking at him, he's got a lot of doubts. He's very deep thought about this fight. He's very worried about it. And I can tell by looking at his trainer that he's very worried about it too.
Mike Tyson beat people before the fight. And there's an element of that in Tyson Fury as well.
If you go back a few generations, there's no doubt that Muhammad Ali got into Sonny Liston's brain because Sonny Liston believed that Ali was mad and he didn't know how to cope with someone who was mad.
I just cannot wait for this. Please God, I wish it was this weekend. You'd get hurt.
The maverick that is Tyson Fury comes out with a lot of rubbish, also comes out with some very entertaining stuff. But in a way, I felt there's a little tiny bit of that Sonny Liston in Klitschko thinking, I've not actually dealt with something like this before.
I'll fight now. I don't have to wait till October.
You need a therapy. You meant to show me respect. You meant to be scared of me. And Klitschko did not have a clue.
Would you have backed Tyson Fury to beat Vladimir Klitschko?
No, I thought that Klitschko just would have been too big, too athletic, too strong for Fury. Gladly, he proved me wrong.
Tyson Fury's emphatic points victory was one of the great sporting shocks that for many has since been overshadowed by some of his extreme views.
We have the new unified heavyweight champion of the world, Mr. Tyson Fury.
The flashbulbs haven't always shown him in a good light. The intense scrutiny of a world heavyweight title fight has uncovered opinions on gay marriage and abortion, which for many make uncomfortable reading.
You've upset people, you've offended people with some of the things you've said.
Yes, I have.
How do you reflect on that now?
Well, my aim was to become the most controversial, most outspoken heavyweight champion since Muhammad Ali before I won the title, and I do believe I've achieved that.
Did he cross the line?
He certainly crossed the line with as far as a lot of people are concerned. And if I had any advice to give him, I would say make yourself a little bit more of an all-round, loved human being.
Do you regret some of the things? Will you change?
Life is too short for regrets, my friend, and everything that's happened in the past is history. I look forward to the future, I don't look at the past.
If I could choose one heavyweight champion from history to fight, I'd obviously choose Muhammad Ali, the greatest of all times.
How do you think the British public view you?
How do they view me? I've no idea. Maybe tall, dark and handsome rogue who can fight like hell.
For better or for worse, boxing will always bring out the maverick.
I just wrote a poem entitled Truth. The face of truth is open. The eyes of truth are bright. The lips of truth are ever closed. The head of truth is upright. The words of truth are touching. The voice of truth is deep. The law of truth is simple. All you sow, you reap.
Do you think boxing needs mavericks as much as ever now?
I think every sport needs mavericks.
Mavericks will always come through a sport like boxing because the people that take it up are so different to start with.
Okay, guys, ITV! Yes!
Mavericks on a golf course are few and far between.
It isn't the critic who counts, not the man who points out where the strong man stumbled, or where the doer's deeds could have done better.
There are nice guys, and there are guys who are not so nice.
He had his image. He had that Simply the Best, the Dark Destroyer, so we both worked it. It's good seeing you, man.
And guys who literally like to slap.
They get the impression that I am cocky and arrogant, but I'm not.
When you call yourself the greatest, or you vault over a top rope, a lot of people dislike that. They are looking for them to fail.
When I get booed, it makes me fight harder, so I thrive off the negativity.
The real mavericks are just being themselves. They don't think things through, they act.
Life of truth is eternal. Immortal is its past. Power of truth shall endure. Truth shall hold to the last. That's a masterpiece.